Todd should be joining us online if he's not there already. We'll start with a few housekeeping items. And then what we're gonna do is we'll save the park board funding for second to last. Reports last online if he's not there already. We'll start with this few housekeeping items. On YouTube or something.
But then they can't talk. But then Mike can't talk.
Well, we'll flip it back on when it's time for Mike. Well, yeah, but what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to have Mike or whoever still type. I forgot, we're still using YouTube instead of using Zoom.
Well, we're on both.
Okay,
I'm just streaming it. So if I exit out of the stream, it'll still keep streaming, right?
not sure.
Don't ask the pro here.
Turn the app back on.
Is this the,
That's when you get the back.
is this over at Cisco property?
Mike, are you there?
Just
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
It could be that one, the litigation first.
So we might get.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the first thing, I have before me the minutes from Monday, April 17th. If somebody would like to discuss it or make a motion. I have a motion from Kay.
Yeah.
Is there a second? A second from Tony. Is there any further discussion on that? I ask all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Okay, while you're passing that down, a couple of housekeeping items that I promised. Meeting day and times. Guys, I'm going to suggest we go back to Monday at 4:30. That way Cassie can get to, would also like to go to North Judson, and Justin's not here, but I'm going to speak on his behalf. That way he doesn't have to speed over there. I mean, I know sometimes we get a little bit long. We've had some pretty big business the last couple of meetings. I think an hour is sufficient. That'll give 30 minutes for travel. But is there anybody that is just absolutely opposed to that?
That's what it has to be. I mean, being our very first meeting out of the gate, we found a attorney and our secretary.
Yeah, it's just, there was.
Very first meeting.
Of course, I think she would.
Friday just doesn't really work for more than one person. Thursday, that seems like a bust. So let's try that again. We can keep, if we have to make some changes. The other thing for right now, this note here. Budget workshop date, since we're just on dates. I talked to Rachel. She'd like to
They have this. This was Appaloosa's.
No, Ravens.
Or Arabian.
Yeah.
This is all Arabian.
whoever that
Running
is.
around.
Horses.
Well, his dad had several. Ones everywhere.
I want horses. Rachel needs a little bit of time to put the budgets in. The deadline, some people have gotten their budgets already. But the deadline is the end of May. She'd like to have the month of June to get them all put in for us. She was asking about the possibility of the first Monday in July, if that's feasible for us. A lot of the times we do the budget workshop in the morning because the elected officials and supervisors need to be able to meet those that are called in to meet or that specifically request to meet.
That would be July 3rd.
That would be July 3rd. That sounds right.
Will that be a, I mean, it doesn't matter to me.
Yes.
What's our day off that
Oh.
week? No, 4th of
Is it
July
on
would
a
be,
Friday?
yeah, that should be all right.
I'm available. That would be a good day for me.
Okay, so,
How many budget hearing days do you, I mean, we used to do 2. How many do you guys?
no, we only do one. I mean, it only takes a few hours to honestly, I mean,
Really?
we tighten that up pretty well. I mean, we, by the time we walk in there, we'll have reviewed their past budget and kind of have an idea of where they need to be.
So the office holder doesn't come in front of us
Not every
anymore?
one of them. Normally we
Really?
do some specific ones we want to call in. Or if they're asking for some kind of big change with their budget. Generally, what we normally do is we ask them to submit the same amount. And then we work from there. So if there's a big. What I learned from that though, when I first got on the council was, a lot of the times they didn't move it around though. And so, because if you notice, we haven't done a lot of additional appropriations even in the last few years because we've tightened all that up. So, but if there's been a drastic change in somebody's department or if they're requesting something new, then we might do that. Otherwise, we pretty much just focus on highway, sheriff's department, EMS because they're the biggest ones, and a lot of times we have questions about that, so. Usually we get it done and usually half a day is what we've done in the
So
past.
are we doing it in the morning or in the afternoon?
In the past, we've done it in the morning and then wrapped up at lunch. Or worked through lunch and got done, slightly after, but. Can we say tentatively 9 AM and then we'll shoot from there? There's a bunch of remonstrance or issues with it, we can change it, but at least we can give Rachel a date when she returns from her meeting. Does anybody have any opposition to that at this point? Okay, then to get a couple of these things knocked out before we get on the bigger item, talking about the grant. You have already seen the ordinance from the recorder. This is to establish her perpetuation fund. This is something annually that we, done in the past. I looked for a motion on that. I'm thinking that I wouldn't expect a lot of discussion.
I'll move to accept the ordinance as presented.
I have a motion from Bruce. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second from Cassandra. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And is there any opposed? And then the other ordinance that we had for us tonight was the ordinance for the settlement that we achieved with Cisco. It was the settlement for the project that we had there that we had been expecting as a $675,000 cash payout. This was just, we discussed this last time. This was just what Dustin put together for us. You guys have all seen it. I'd like to ask for a motion on that. So this is the ordinance that creates the fund to receive the money.
I make a motion that we accept the ordinance.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion from Mr. Bailey. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Kate. Is there any further discussion? I'll ask all those in favor of that one to please say aye. So while you're passing that through, Tracy's here from the park board. Angelina's here. Tom is a former board member, is also joining. And then I know we have a few people here in support or that are also in some of those other meetings. We've discussed this in the past. This is a project to renovate the beach house and some of its surroundings, and it just it's an icon in Starke County. I mean, many people, that were kids before I was a kid. Yeah, I don't want to pick on Bruce, but yes, Bruce mentioned that earlier. He was out there when he was, younger too, but it's quite an iconic piece of our county. And, one of the things about it is that this board has a strong representation across the county. And one of the things we try to do is we try to make sure that we spread things around too. And, certain things aren't just in Knox, aren't in Bass Lake or whatever else, but I think in terms of the Bass Lake Beach House, that's something that we all use and have had some discussion with the different members. And, one of the things I think that we could all agree on is it's one of the things that everybody from the county can use. It's not like some of the other assets that we have. It is one of our assets. And so it behooves us to take care of it. I didn't really go into detail on this before. So the one thing is that we may not get this grant. I hope we do. So what we'd like to do though, just as an FYI, I mean, fingers crossed, hopefully we do get there. But one of the things, we had a small kind of meeting with Mr. Ballard. He's not here online, is he? About, well, what if we don't get the grant? And the thing is we still would like to use that asset. And so we're still going to be looking for some funding to do some renovations to it. We went out there, we have a small committee that Tracy put together. We've met a couple of times and looked at the building. Several of you have been there. The place has good bones. I mean, I thought it was going to be rotten and other things. It's quite solid. One of the pieces of concrete in the front is a little bit rough, but generally the building is in pretty good shape. So I think even if we didn't get to go this elaborate as this grant affords, I think some, a few $100,000 or something like that of repairs, at least to get the party started, would still be, a long way ahead and make the thing more usable. The brochure was going around that. Did you end up passing that, or There's a brochure if you wanted to see what Tracy brought. It has a couple of color pictures. and
Some of
things.
their thoughts.
But, and what happened was this Troyer group went through and looked at the, sort of the feasibility guidance from, the park board and the committee. And said, okay, if we really wanted to make this thing, really viable and, top shelf, what it would cost. Well, this number on the bottom is obviously not what we were talking. The grant is up to $1 million. And so the budget we had been talking about. was $1
Mike,
million.
didn't they up that?
Yes, that it's now 1.4 million total project, so it'd be 700,000 grant, 700,000.
Well, that's kind of ironic then when we came in now at 1.35 instead of, okay, so you could match up at 700.
You could.
Correct.
Well, I think when this started, in fairness, I think what we were talking about was $1 million project. And so, I've already talked to Tracy about this and looking at this already, we've looked at it. It's agreeable that this could be trimmed down to be.
It really wasn't us that upped it. The federal upped the amount you could get, right, Mike?
Correct. And this adds, the campground area, some improvements to the beach, the playground and parking, the restroom buildings, in the campground and on the beach, and also the 2 entry gate houses. So it's not all directly in the beach house.
Right, but I mean, I think from the council perspective, what was being sold to the council originally. When I say sold, I mean, including me as well, because I've
Right.
been working with the park board myself quite a bit, was that we discussed just doing the beach. Now, I'm only one person here. If we want to have a discussion about, additional improvements that are shown here, I mean, 200,000 of this is the campground, so.
We have to have the bathrooms redone in the campground. That's a must. That was on the original, correct, Mike?
Yeah, that was part of the master plan, and
Oh.
the master plan, went on beyond this project, but we tried to identify from that.
I wasn't gonna drag that in. I'm just talking about this thing that says campground area, that section is.
Oh,
200,000.
the tent area and
Yeah,
that, gotcha.
like as an example, I
Gotcha.
mean, there may be other things we can see,
Right,
some of those improvements. I mean, we've had help, from county entities. But and I've said this in other meetings, really, people need to get out there and see how nice the park board has
they do.
improved it. I mean, the campground looks a zillion times better. Between, the county highway where they're allowed to helping us, the inmates. So the sheriff department, I mean, just, volunteers, the board, there's been a lot of work put into it. It's light years ahead of where it was at, and it'd be nice to be able to keep that momentum up that, it's kind of started. So.
Campground income, beach income or revenue, does that go right back to the park board or how is that distributed?
So that's another thing I want to look at during budget workshops is I'm thinking about the possibility that we could look at it and set it more like EMS where it is revenue for the county. And then, they have a set budget. Right now, the way it's set up is they do have a set budget, but they also have to earn the money. So
And
there's
that's all the money that we get. We get nothing else. So whatever we bring in, we get to use. To put back in, and being it's so old, we're just putting Band-Aids on, so at this stage, there will never be a profit. Because everything's so old and it just keeps nickel and diamond, it's just.
Well, I mean, during the commissioners meeting, I mentioned the thing about just while we're waiting to get the septic pump, we've already spent 12,000. I'm sorry, 6,000 in pumping the septic as an example. I mean, there have been a lot of Band-Aids, but. Contrary to that too, though, there have been some improvements that are lasting too, like your investment in the piers, you won't be having to do that, the hardware in the piers, there are some things that are kind of buried costs too that, are part of the asset that,
We are getting a new lift station, but that also came out of our budget.
So the old days of having the little snack shop and the grill in the beach houses no longer.
No, that will be in there.
Gotta be-
That will be in the renovations.
So how much of this project you're talking about a grant, can we do this in phases or is this a all or nothing?
it's a one-shot grant project.
And when will we find out if they get the grant?
Mike, do you want to take over there?
Sure. So the application is due June 1st. And then we would find out probably in August, if we get the grant. And then, the construction wouldn't start until the following year, probably late summer. So, that's kind of the schedule. What the schedule would be. It is an opportunity to kind of do the one shot and you get as much as you can done because you're getting that match. You can also, if there's certain things that can be donated or force account labor from the county, that can be worked in. But, and then if we can approve a match, we have to have a match approved for the grant application. So whatever that amount is, we can design to that or a little bit under that. So, the goal would be not to have to go above that amount for your match where it remains 50-50.
Which we've been talking about a $500,000 guaranteed match from the council. But in the meantime, Tracy and those that are involved are gonna try to raise funds through donations. In kind, matching, donations, cash, whether it's cash or in kind that, can be assessed a value to try to knock that number down.
So
I don't know
when
where
the
it
construction
ends,
starts, I'm sitting here thinking from what I just heard. This is not, yes, we can guarantee the grant, but it wouldn't have to come out of one fiscal year, would it?
We won't spend
No.
it this year, it won't come out till next year.
But I'm-
Late 24.
Well, what I'm saying is
That's
that,
why I brought the solar money.
I think what he's
When you said
saying
that,
is
'cause-
you don't have to write a, if we get this grant, you don't have to go, here's your $500,000 check.
No.
Is that correct, Mike? You can do it, you do it in phases, right?
So it's a reimbursement grant. So you'd need to have the money to be able to pay for, the design and construction of the grant. And then you would be reimbursed by DNR 50%. But yeah, it would be, expenses would be over 2023, 2024, probably spring 2025, the project would finish up. So it would span multiple fiscal years. But you need to commit to that total amount now, so we have that in the application.
But the money would be in phases.
It would be, it's one project, but it would span over several
Correct.
years.
Correct.
that makes sense, Dave?
Yeah, that's why I thought, when I was speaking of it, is the pain is not as great as we think financially, either, because it's,
Are we still looking at $500,000 or are we looking at more?
Yeah, that's.
I would.
Well,
talk about
honestly, I think we can do the $500,000. This number looks great, these other things look great, but I think we can
There are
look at
some things that we,
other areas to get these other things bought. Right?
correct. And with the donations and stuff, this is probably what you remember.
The last thing I remember about Bass Lake Beach, I was out there minding my own business, sunning myself on the beach, and the DNR tried to drag me back in the water.
I thought we were a lobster.
Out of the beach whale.
But this,
Yeah.
that's like original, and then this one was like
So will you try to,
2009.
I haven't been out there since the 70s, but will it try to keep some of the old character of them?
Absolutely.
That's
Originally they wanted to demolish it.
Yeah.
And I got so much negative feedback on that from, everybody, the county and outsiders and, the locals, the people that live there, the people that come from different states. There's so many memories from generations and generations, great grandmas and great grandpas, it goes back so far that. So then, when the board originally wanted to demolish it, I went in, I got, a few people together and I said, would you all just please come out there and look at this building with me? Because the beam, it's the big beams with the bolts. You'll never rebuild a building like that
It's
again.
not even damp inside.
No,
Even though the roof's not in great shape, it's not even
there's
damp.
not a wet spot in
Doesn't
there.
smell.
It's just needs.
You don't want to hear what my thoughts were 30 years ago, but.
You wanted to tear it down?
No, I did not want to tear it down, but I did want, I would have liked to seen it coexist with some privatization, with some, you know, when I was a kid growing up, that those places were rentals out there mostly. Now they're residents or second homes. And I think there's still, you know, we're sitting here talking about building a motel in Knox. The motel ought to be out at Bass Lake. I mean, if you're gonna
Exactly.
do some things, that think big. you
So many
know?
bed and
Honestly, having a snack shop, like renting the snack shop isn't out of the realm of
Absolutely not. The
possibility.
only thing
May do
we
that.
cut back on was originally they wanted to put like a restaurant type deal in there. And talking to Mike and stuff, that gets into a lot of Ansel system, venting, grease traps.
Sure.
So that was so much more expense. So we decided to keep that little kitchen area, but do like nachos, have like the hot dogs
Or
and
look for a
sausage
vendor to
rolling.
come out and.
They used to rent it for, didn't
Yeah, and I
Just
think
little
that's.
snack things, you know,
Possibility, yeah.
chip,
So-
chop, water.
they?
And that's still possible because we are gonna leave that little kitchen area, but we won't have to have all of that major up to code equipment
Requires
for
and stuff.
that.
So
Howard, or, sorry.
will this facility be for rent in the off season?
We're not gonna heat it either because that runs into a whole new can of worms, correct,
Okay.
Mike?
Correct. It wouldn't be entire building heating and cooling because the insulation costs, some of the other code, but there'd be some of the offices or portions of their building that would be heated and cooled.
Culvert
And that's
use.
an option, and I want to like make it sort of an information like a rest area type. You know how they have all the brochures of all the area, the bike trail. state
Well, it's
forest,
gonna be a
or the-
trailhead.
Right, they're gonna try to connect to us to make that one of their stops, you know. Restaurants, grocery store, anything that, you know, have a big with, you know, all of the events and everything, the Starke County Forest. Have their stuff in there, you know, attractions that are, you know, available for people to go to. When. Go ahead.
Well, maybe you can't answer now, but setting aside the project, say we can't use 23, but fiscally in 2022, what did the beach and the campgrounds in dollars gross in revenue? How much did you take in? When I asked
The whole budget, it's like 242.
225.
no, I don't mean the budget. How much was actually?
That's what it's all together, 226, I think.
Basically what we,
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, they basically earn their keep.
No, that's what I'm asking.
But I
Like I
need to
said-
add too, that with the new piers, that revenue stream is gonna go up once we get the all pier
Right,
permit
well,
and everybody in, so.
I was just
say
curious
that,
what
but we
the
also
revenue
put
was,
in-
what was coming in.
We put in seeded startup money the first couple of years, so it did eat that,
Yes,
but
not
now
this
it's,
year.
now it's on its feet on its own.
and like I said, that's with no amenities or anything, I mean, it's one bathhouse at this end, or I should say restrooms. 2 porta potties at this end, beach house is just locked, and that's it.
Right now.
It's bringing that in with nothing there.
I mean, like we had weed problems. I mean, when we first started, the first time, like first cut and took over. Well, Tony, you went by, you saw me. I was dirt head to toe in my ears. And I mean, it was perfect. Now they've got it trimmed back and cut back and the trees are trimmed.
And I said, you know, this is gonna be our hardest year because that had been in such bad shape for 10 or so years, you know, the leaves were this thick, wet. And I told all of the volunteers that have helped me and, you know, this is gonna be our hardest year. Getting it to where it's at now, and then from this point forward, you keep up with it every year and you're gonna have that issue.
So
What's, oh, I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
What do you, I guess I'm asking the gentleman that's online, what is the likelihood of getting the grant?
I think we have a pretty good chance. We did this last year with North Judson for their town park, and going through the scoring criteria, we had a very similar score to what this is, and we received the grant. Also, in some previous years, every application was awarded because they had enough dollars to cover all of the applications. So it is difficult to tell until you know how many people are applying, but I would like to think we have a pretty good shot unless there's just for some reason, an overwhelming amount of applicants this year.
And is it with the 700 if the grant's approved, will it be the 700,000 or up to the 700,000?
If you, it's whatever you approve as your local match. So if you
Okay,
approve 500,000, you would
Okay, I
get
understand.
500,000.
Okay,
So,
Good.
and the one issue as far as donations and forced account, we would have to have a letter of commitment by June 1st for any donations to count as local match.
Well, I mean, the donors it can be a donation to Starke County and you can funnel it in there. I mean, it doesn't, you know what I mean? If somebody comes in with $100,000 later, I'm not gonna turn them away.
No, and that can still
You're
go
gonna
to the
get- you want-
project. We just can't use that as local match. You
No, no, I'm
can't
with
use it
you.
as local match in the application, that's all.
Yeah, well, I'm asking for a commitment to the local match tonight.
So if you did 500,000, that would mean you have to have a $1 million project in the application. So we'd have to cut 350,000 from the current project.
Or, you know, I'm just looking at some of this stuff too, Mike. I mean, I've been involved in quite a few municipal projects this many years.
It's just,
I mean, some of these look a little fat. I mean, you know, I mean.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I mean, just-
There's a contingency included in it within each of these line items. We can't put a contingency by itself in the estimate, so they're built into the items. You know, kind of like with the Starke County Parks projects and the big increase of contractor costs. We just wanted to err on the high side in case costs continue to rise over the next couple of years, which hopefully they will not.
I mean, the other thing too, and I'll just say this to the park board is,
wouldn't be really
like
much
when we took
different
the
than
school down in
adjustment.
Washington Township, the demolition was donated to us. We have some companies in Starke County that may be interested in that, or, you know, some kind of a lower bid on the demolition, for example, you know.
Got like Dave.
Yeah.
Be some things in there that.
I'm not
And some of that can be pieced together, how you do the bid packages. The good thing is the DNR grant, it does have a little more flexibility than the Okra process that we had to go through for the Starke County Parks projects over the last few years. So that does help. The one thing if we have something in the application, we just need to, especially if it's something that we're getting points for, we just need to make sure it's in the project. We can't take it out if bids come in high.
So can I ask a question then? How many more projects are the park board, is the park board considering in the next couple of years? Because I know there's talk about Coons Lake and there's talks, I
So
think,
Coons Lake right now, we have, and along with volunteers. I don't know if any of you have been up there.
I have.
The beach has kind of been redone. We took the guardrails out, the volunteers cut down trees, they put in new picnic tables. Looks very much different than what it did before.
are you still considering trying to buy that house up there? Because if you are, I'm not, I would not be, I'll tell you what, I'm happy with what you're doing here. And for those that I was here and I supported the North Judson Park, you know what, with the economy the way it is and things the way they are, if local people can have these destinations that they can enjoy themselves, then I truly believe that in my heart of hearts, if we can do this over a couple of years, I would not be opposed to making a motion for $500,000.
Starke County, that's our economic development opportunity in its destination right now. I mean, we've been trying to get new factories and things, but.
And 30 years ago, when we started thinking about edit or seed it, what you call it now, these were the kind of projects we were looking for.
Right.
To improve the livelihood of our.
You said you were thinking about a motion. Is that a motion from you?
It can be, I would like to.
I got a couple more questions.
Okay.
We were talking 500,000 spread out over, say, 3 years. How is it gonna be paid over 3 years? Are we gonna use some ARPA? Are we gonna use all
It's
stated?
ARPA money, correct, Mike?
Yeah, we cannot use ARPA.
We've got a few things. We've got seeded,
That's what I'm,
solar. Honestly, like,
well, solar, let's don't put the horse before the cart. We haven't received one check
like
from
we've
solar
got
yet.
the Cisco money. We could
Right,
use some of that. I mean, the thing is, I think that I know where you're going though. I think even ARPA money, like, I think this is the perfect thing for solar procedure, because
I'm
that's
not
something
against the
Rob-
project, I just wanna know how we're gonna pay for it,
Yeah,
what funds, where it's coming from.
yeah, I think we've got the ARPA money earmarked for some other things really, and, anyways,
Right, that's what,
yeah.
So as realistically, we can't say we're gonna do it over 2 or 3 years. It's gonna come in as it comes in, correct?
Right.
And but if we make it known that we're gonna have to hold off on some of these kind of projects if we do this one for a year or two,
Mhm.
I would be a hypocrite if I didn't support this after I did. So,
If you support this, I won't ask you for anything until
really,
I retire.
how about, can I get a job? Can I get a
Get a
job out there?
We need gatekeepers.
Lifeguarding?
They do,
I
need- they do need employees.
so we're not looking at the 1,335,000, we're looking at $1 million, $1 million project. They'd have to cut it 350,000 as this reads now, right?
Yeah.
No, but you're talking about some fundraising that could be done and things like that?
Well, the fundraising will go on the 500,000, but I mean,
On top of the 500.
well, I was thinking chop the 500 down is what we had
Well, I
been
don't think
talking
you-
about, but.
I'm not sure how that works, Mike.
So we could do donations and everything in the project. Once we get in to, design, we can identify things that people could donate and volunteer labor and everything. We just couldn't use it in the grant application as match. So if we did 500,000,
Yeah.
we
would-
could end up with a
500.
$1.1 million project or more, but the grant application would just be for $1 million.
Correct.
I did, yeah. Todd, we haven't really gotten to hear from you. Let's let you,
I think you muted him.
oh, sorry, we muted you because we were learning about more than we needed right now about horses.
Todd, you should be.
Can you unmute Todd?
You don't suppose he's passed out?
Thinking about probably gave up on it.
No.
So
You'll have to give him mouth to mouth.
if we had $1 million, if you had $1 million to work with on this project, the grant and the county allowance, $1 million. Do you see, I'm looking at $1,350,000. Do you see this project being trimmed close to the $1 million, or do you see it exceeding the $1,350,000?
200 of it's campground area, so. That
Okay.
leaves 150, and some of these other things are fat, and. You just have to eliminate some of it.
Well, a question I would have was, all right, say that the project is started, is it going to go in phases? And if so, what order? Because say like one part of it becomes complete and you stop having to put the money in for the Band-Aid repairs from your budget, would some of the money in their budget then be able to be redirected towards some of these costs?
Well, we've trimmed that budget pretty small in there, and so I hate to risk that just because other maintenance things can come up. It's possible. Or it's possible some of the things that they didn't get might be able to come out of their budget. Back to Howard's idea though, like if we took the 200 out, that leaves 150. But splitting that's 75. I mean, one possibility is if we wanted to make sure would be going 575 is not that big of a jump.
Yeah, I just want to ask a question, maybe of Mike, because he was talking about the things that you don't want to cut, that maybe adds the point, so. Before you decide tonight what to actually cut, maybe if you look at it overall and see what is gonna lose you less points.
I hate to table it because we don't have enough.
Well,
No, I'm not trying to table.
but I don't necessarily, we as a council need to cut what.
That would be
You
between
you
us.
guys as a park board
Right.
would know better what to cut.
Right.
So
Correct.
if we set the camp area, that's 198 off of that,
Right
and
there,
you're saying
yeah.
575 would assure it to get that way, and then if the park board would assure us that they would try to have some fundraising that could help offset that, I would still be okay with that.
We'll definitely be working on fundraising projects.
We talked about, we guys mentioned bathrooms, that's separate.
It is included. That is one thing that is included for the for the campground side, the bathrooms part.
The plumbing,
We do
electrical and
need to be-
mechanical are. a must.
Angel and I worked on the shower and the handicap shower the other day.
Getting everything
together.
up
It's,
to ADA.
that's
compliant.
hard.
Where would we stand on our commitment? Where would we stand on our commitment if the grant didn't go through? If there was no grant?
Well, then we're talking about doing the bathrooms and putting a new roof on it and still using it. You know,
So
that
we're
kind of
still
thing.
planning on
A few
using the-
$100,000.
We're still planning on, if the grant doesn't go through, our commitment would still be,
Well, right now,
We'll
the
still be
motion would be
committed.
for the 575 for this. They would have to come back to us and get a different motion to do a smaller project. We have to get a budget for that. I don't know what that would be. yet,
so, but my point, if the grant didn't go through, neither would our motion. We wouldn't, I'm just.
And they'd have to come back and redo it.
Right.
That's what I'm,
And then we approve that.
right,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, because I mean, there's possibilities.
Sure, oh, yeah.
And we don't want it to go fallow no matter what. I mean,
No,
hopefully the grant does go
And it's
through.
just hard to pass up $5,003.
It's one of the biggest grants really we've ever gotten. I mean, you know, we,
and there's.
we asked in this role, one of the things about creating a park board, director was we want them to write grants. So there you go. There's, you know, that's, she's doing what she's supposed to do.
Well, you know, I feel like it kind of adds value to like the caliber of homes that's coming in, obviously getting taxed and things.
Yeah, thanks, sure.
They have a nice speech area and all these things, makes people want to build them bigger, nicer houses.
I think there's a lot of tax money coming in out there.
That's what I mean, I'm just saying, but it brings in more.
I mean, we're the only one with the brand new
We've seen-
house with 200.
we've seen the trustees
in there.
The trustee from, they're requesting money from us a lot lately, but they have gigantic amount of money.
Maybe we should put something for them then.
I have their
Yes.
amount they have right here in their bank.
When we went
If I had
ahead
their
with,
money, I wouldn't be here.
when we went ahead with the Bass Lake Conservancy, that was a great deal for Bass Lake because I think the quality of the lake has really improved over the last
Absolutely.
25 or 30 years. And so if there's no other discussion, I'm willing to put that motion on the floor.
And the funds would come out of, edit,
Seed it,
Cisco.
Cisco or
Solar.
solar.
so what, I know we had to talk about, we're giving Hamlet some money to maintain that water tower, right?
We already gave them 175.
Okay, so what do we got left of that?
Five.
We've got $500,000 left of that money.
Yeah.
You know, in my opinion, we talk about edit, seeded money out of these funds, this money was given to us. It's $500,000 laying in an account. We don't have to worry about it coming out of future accounts, where we're getting the money, where we're pulling it from. That money's there. We're satisfying Hamlet's needs for bringing that water tower up to date. I would like to see us take the rest of that Cisco money. And if we're gonna do it with that money and it's done.
Well, I think we back it that way, so at least it's back. I mean, we don't have to know where it comes from right now.
Okay, well, I'm just,
But I will say, I agree with you. on that,
it's done. We don't have to worry about pulling it out of this kiddo, and this kiddo.
Spent a lot of personal time to get that money from Cisco, so I just.
No, I understand,
I would say I'm agreeable.
But it would be money that would be well spent, that we don't have to worry about 2 years from now where we're getting that money.
I don't know
from.
why
The money
it's
would
there
be
to buy Nate's
accommodated.
house.
What?
I'm ribbing you, Bruce.
Yeah, he's ribbing you. You want to buy a house.
I said I was kind of hoping to say that buy that house, and he was like,
I think a big check.
You know what, you should just go buy it before he.
You take a gun when you
How
go.
about that?
So anyway, I'll put that motion on the floor.
okay, so we have a motion, from Bruce, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Cassie. Now, one last call though for any further discussion.
And that
You
number
could have
was.
from Todd.
I tried to call Todd.
While we're waiting, I walked in with some reservations and kind of the timing was a little unusual too, because we all thought we approved the North Judson thing. I think one of the board members said we're gonna see.
Hey,
a lot
I'm gonna
more
put you on
requests,
speaker.
But I think after it's over and hearing.
We had a motion and a second
Feel like
for
it's
with the
gonna
part.
be
At least for the discussion part, there's already a motion and a second, but, would you like to add anything about the part
It's
The
basically
budget,
the only.
I have an extra copy for you, but the budget that Claire came up with 1.35. There was something in there for the campground that was 200, so we took that out, so the matching fund would be 575 right now.
This project started last year. Starke just came in now. It's been ongoing since
Just
March. Well, no, because the five-year plan got on.
sorry, Todd, we had a lot of discussion. Could you okay?
Somebody else had to take it over. And I believe there was another project in St. Joe County at Houghton Road where they were in charge of, and they had to bail out on that because they couldn't handle it. And they can correct me if I'm wrong.
Mike?
Did you hear that, Mike?
I couldn't hear that conversation. It was really broken up.
The discussion, Mike, was a project you guys had on Otten Road and on Culver, and that just some concerns that of us possibly getting through this and you guys having to back out, that you guys had to have a different management.
Oh, yeah, those were NDOT projects. And we had lost the construction and inspector, and for NDOT, you have to have the certain qualifications. So we subconsulted with another firm to do that construction inspection since we didn't have that in-house. And that was the Culver and the Otten Road projects.
Did you hear that
That's
about?
that's not the case here. This is not an NDOT project.
They had to seek another inspector. Oh, okay. I have a motion second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, Todd, do you want me just to go ahead and leave you on speaker here for the rest of the meeting? Oh, okay, sorry about that. I didn't know if you lost your feed or whatever, so I just wanted to call you to make sure you were. Oh, okay, sorry, Todd. Just wanted to make sure you were included. All right, good night, thanks, bye.
So for clarification, what was the amount that was approved? 500 or 575?
575.
575. Okay, great. Because yeah, the couple of things in the campground we'll have to leave in if we want those points, but we can trim in some areas, and that's a workable number for sure.
It's not that the council is anti-campground either. It's just, really the beach is more an asset that the county residents would use more readily. Some campers are county, but it's really for a lot of out of town use and things. And so I think the spread here, each one of us represents a different area, and it's going to be more used by Starke on that side.
And revenue from the ground could be generated to do that project, correct?
Oh, well, the jets.
Absolutely, we will be having to, keep.
It's gonna help
And
in a
like I
lot of
said, we're
ways.
starting with this lift station, it's about a $25,000 project, but hopefully, once that's in, they spent at least that in repairs last year.
Yeah.
Now we're putting in brand new.
We spent close to $60,000 last year.
Mr.
and just
Bush,
trying
I
to keep
hope
it running.
that you'd reconsider staying on.
Me too. Me
I-
too. Me too.
I
Me
know
too.
that what our situation,
I'm not saying it.
but I'm telling you,
Well, to tell you the truth, after this response today, which is I'm overjoyed with,
but you need to reconsider staying on it. If you're hard,
Yes.
if you're hard
Still
staying
mad
at
at me?
no, I was a man.
Someone's on the master, they just stay on and do that for us.
well, but I wish.
Yeah, but that's the thing that I think that wasn't really well known is how much volunteer hours that went out there. I mean, these two are really the only staff, but there's tens of people, dozens of people that commit a lot of hours out there just volunteering, wanting it to be better, and that's all they have in mind. They're not
The
looking.
group that we have, our hearts are really there. I've lived there for 33 years at the lake. I mean, there's a passion there with the people that are helping.
I've been coming here since the 60s. I mean, I used to be the one that took out the ski jump off.
What is-
You're that old?
I had
I was
a,
like, it was maybe in the sixties, but.
I had a guy that I farmed for that could remember riding the rides out of Reynolds Park. And you had a Bass Lake resident out there by the name of Art Bauer. I never understood how the channel got put in at Bass Lake, but it was from the paddle boats.
Right.
And so the beach was perfect because you had a safe area for the younger kids. And then you could get to the channel.
Mike, I think you can probably be done and I'll get with you in the next day or two.
Let's let Larry.
Oh.
That might go.
Is that?
Okay,
good?
thank you, everyone. Is there any
Bye.
other questions for me before I leave?
Oh, I didn't think questions. Did you have a question for Mike?
as he goes, no.
Oh, I thought maybe you had a question for him. Okay. Thank you, Mike.
All right, thanks, everyone. Bye.
Sorry, Larry, I thought you had a
No,
question.
I wanted to make a comment though. I think he's still on there, but there was little, Todd wasn't too happy with the Troyer group. I led the Constellation of Starke effort in our second go around. We worked with Troyer and we were very pleased with it. So I just wanted you to know, our experience was very positive. with
Yeah,
Troyer.
Todd has a lot of inside information, so I mean, his point is well taken. I mean, we'll hold Troyer to the fire. You know, the thing about Stark County is we're not a bunch of dummies, and if we get burnt, we will, we'll act
And so far,
accordingly.
they've
So
been
we'll
great.
see. But you said you did the Bass Lake, or not Bass Lake, I'm sorry, the North Judson Park too, right?
He actually, I think, was
Oh, okay.
brought that up.
Yeah, he did.
I didn't realize that they were.
And that one went through, that was a man, right? Was that your only point?
I just wanted to put in a good plug for Troyer because.
Thank you. We've had,
we had
they've been really good with us.
Yeah, we
Well,
were happy.
we'll see.
Question back there.
Well, let's keep the community involved too with what's going on out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my name is Ricky Over. I live across the street from the beach. I'd like to thank you guys for making that motion and passing it. If none of you have been by that campgrounds and beach lately, you should. The improvement in the last year and a half. Tracy and Angelina is phenomenal. I was there when they shut down, when the state shut it down. I got the history of the piers and everything. And, Bass Lake is the third largest lake in Indiana, naturally. And to me, that's a crown jewel for Stark County over there.
So were you there in the 80s and 90s out there?
No,
When I'll tell you what, when we went with the Bass Lake Conservancy, that that was not a popular deal.
No.
But I would have liked to seen the whole county being put into a conservancy and not just.
but you guys are gonna get your money's worth. It's gonna be a beautiful place. I'm on that committee with Dave and Tracy and Angelina and Tom when we did that with Troyer and that. And hopefully we'll get that grant to go through and start putting the money back in there to do that. But again, for those that haven't driven through there lately or that, you need to go through that park and see some of those people lawns in there are probably better than what you have in your lawn. I'm serious. They got True Green in there. It's unbelievable what they're doing.
We have very proud.
And the people in there that are on the committee. So again, I want to thank you for passing that motion.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you for your support. I'll tell you, when I've been out there a few times doing things, Rick with the water and he's keeps an eye on it for us.
We call him the mayor.
We call him the mayor, Chris.
Makes me
Chris
sound
informed of anything that's coming and going.
We'll be out there tomorrow morning.
Be on the piers.
Yeah, but before the board reports, one of the things is, I don't know if I brought this up during the making the budget workshop date time. But I've talked to each of you about this, about some ideas on this. The commissioners had still been quite reluctant about the ARPA. The only reason why, like for me, I mean, I was one of the ones that wanted to do the 10% across the board. And, thank you to the council still for supporting that. But the other thing, there was some reluctance in different areas about taking that much out of the ARPA. After speaking to other council around the state and talking to the state representatives, I feel like and it made this recommend to Rachel that we say 10%, but for us, budget wise, we'll put 5% of that into the regular general fund budget increase. That way we're only taking 5% from ARPA. The backup will still be ARPA because we already agreed on that. But we flew a 5% increase last year. The state knows that all counties are needing to. Some counties are going as high as 15%. They're much wealthier counties than us, so it's a different story. But that should make that more palatable. when We look at this at budget workshop time, so just giving you a heads up, about that. I didn't get a chance, because it was right before I walked in. I mentioned, actually, it was only to Bruce and Kay, but, Jim Hernandez had reached out to me. I called, I didn't know what he called about, but he was just calling to, let the council know that if anybody's looking for laptops, they got a big laptop donation from Oregon Davis School. And they just said, hey, we've got some extra ones, and I don't know, maybe you already heard that too.
Yeah, Bill.
And then before we get to board reports, which is the last item, I didn't know if Cassie wanted to mention anything about your event. Sorry, I was planning on coming to that last night. I had a friend that needed something, and I went to the gym and then spaced it out.
Yeah, Kay attended with me. There was, I felt like the turnout was good. I was afraid nobody would show up, and we had about 15 people, I think.
Good conversation.
Yeah,
Good
and
information.
there were 3 longtime or lifelong farmers, third generation farmer, one of them is third generation. There were farmers there that are alarmed at the rate that the pop-up, calling them the pop-up facilities, are going in. Everybody there was, there was a good energy there, but it wasn't hostile or anything. People weren't like screaming and angry, but people are angry and they are afraid, because they'll wake up one morning and there's the woman down the street from me woke up and her front yard, parts of her near her front yard are being bulldozed and cleared.
We moved that though. We did move that. That lay down yard is getting moved.
Well, that's,
And the reclaiming.
that, I think
too.
Mandy was asking us about that, and I don't know, I'm in the
Dan,
dark on that.
we were in the meeting together.
Yes, it is being moved. It's going west on 400 south from that facility.
Closer to Clarence's house. Or,
I think.
Yeah.
all right, well, still, it's the principle still there though, and I wasn't aware that that lease had been executed, I think back in 2019, Mandy had mentioned. But people are angry over, they feel that they're not being adequately informed of when these things are happening. And they're worried about what happens if these companies fold. I mean, the gentleman next to me who has a residential solar panel, he had it put in last summer. He was at the meeting. And after he had his put in, I started, I wanted a solar panel too, because I'm in favor of alternative energy, but it's the speed of these pop-up things is just way out of control right now. But anyway, I'm glad I didn't move forward on that, because last winter he let me know that the company went bankrupt and he lost his entire warranty that he had paid God only knows how many thousands of dollars for. So our plan, we have another meeting scheduled for May 31st at Grand Central Park at 6 o'clock. And what I'm going to be working on, I did it today. Actually, I let Mandy know. I emailed her and I asked for copies of, if she knows of maybe the last 3 recorded leases that have been brought to her office, so that I can get copies of those and distribute them among the group, so we can all see exactly what the lease terms are. And you guys, some of you guys might already know. I don't. I never looked at one.
And I'll try to make your next one too, because the questions that are specific to our economic development agreement and agreements we have with them. And then the other things like, oh, so-and-so had this. I could have answered that as far as like the scratch back. If this goes down, if this has already been structured with a bond by an engineering company, a third-party engineering company, to where all that gets taken out and removed. I mean, so there are a lot of things there that people don't know, so they just
Right.
assume we're gonna get left with all this junk. I wish they would leave it. That's $15 billion worth of equipment that's going out there. I hope they leave it. Yeah, we sell it.
People are concerned about possible toxins leaking from.
And we've had that many times at meetings, so we can discuss that, but there are no toxins, there are no chemicals of any, except for the batteries.
That example with that one guy.
Dennis, my
Yeah.
neighbor,
Want to share
that
that?
they set the, when they were installing his panels, allegedly it was because of the heat that they're producing, they sat on the grass for 5 to 7 minutes and killed all the grass in that amount of
I
time.
would say that's possible.
The other interesting point, Brian, and I can't remember his last name, farmer from San Pierre.
Batika.
Okay. Did he say he was related to somebody that works for an oil or gas company that is a corporate umbrella or something over some of these solar companies, or affiliated in some way? His relative, who is an insider, had said that these companies don't really care that much if these projects fail or thrive, because they're doing them for the carbon credits. So that was alarming to me too, as far as, all right, you know, how much do they really care about anything? in
So,
this?
so that's another fallacy with the whole thing. When we first got started, we met with these folks. The council at the time was invited. This starts with investment banking. This is funded through banking. Yes, they get carbon credit, but it doesn't pay for the whole thing. Otherwise, shoot, I'd be, doing it, or not me, probably somebody rich like Tony, but.
Hey, Dave, we met last Friday with NIPSCO and Kay was there. NIPSCO's already purchased
Yeah.
next year's project.
Right. That's a good point, Dan. The other thing.
They just signed with Wells Fargo.
NIPSCO, the other thing that a lot of people say is, well, we're sending out our energy because it's from Starke County.
Oh, yeah,
It's going to,
it's legit.
right, but I get where they're coming from, though. It's energy generated here, and I don't totally disagree with their feelings on that, but the upside of that is the plant that's being shut down and idled by NIPSCO produces a gigawatt of power. Right now, what we have in the fence over there is going to produce 750. So because of that, they're having to bring that up. They have a little, an addition that they want to add on, but in the meantime, there's not enough power even to replace it. So they're actually going to run it for up to another 5 years to build at least at some level to make up for that shortfall. But, Starke County is going to be powering what's being taken down. The carbon footprint that was there before was massive.
I'll tell you what's alarming to me. And I'm a farmer. I've always been a farmer. My family is farm. We're talking 40,000 acres between Pulaski County and Starke County that has went out of production. Is that not true?
That's not true.
How many acres is in Pulaski County?
The amount of land that is leased is not the amount that ends up going out of production. They lease, as many farms as they can in an area, and then their engineers have to design it.
There might not be out of production today.
So they don't get in the project. Okay, I have a farm down the road from Cassandra, actually, and I signed up for that project. And I didn't get in because I didn't fit in the array that was most economical for them to use. A lot of those farms get left out, and then the farms that are used, part of that may not be used because it's a wetland or for various other reasons. So it's much smaller. Like I think it was 15,000 acres that are leased in this county. It'll be way less than half of that actually goes out of production.
I would be happy if that's so, Larry, but I don't believe it for a minute. I see all these irrigation systems and all this land that they have put investments in, and I see that going down the road. So when people younger than me get really hungry, I'm gonna say, call Larry Woodruff.
And when they can't afford to buy food, it's all the land that used to grow their food and now it's all.
So it's a scary thought. I really think, and I know we'll get in trouble.
There's one other thing, though,
We could
and
limit.
we should ask you this, because what I will say is this is great what you're doing, Cassie, because when we did this on Sand Pier, one of the things I told the company was you guys need to do more marketing, because there are people that just don't feel like they know what's going on, but
Well,
one of the things I want to ask
marketing's
Bruce
different
about.
than what we did last night.
Right.
People are sick of marketing.
No, what I'm saying, when I say
It's-
marketing, I
yes.
don't mean like sales marketing, I mean letting them know information, sorry.
They
Yeah.
also don't really believe the
To me, that's
PR they're being fed by these companies.
One of the things, and I'm gonna give Todd credit for this, because one of the things he wanted to talk about tonight was Starke County is one of the biggest areas in CRP. So right now, I mean, just to, and you would know this.
I thought it'd be perfect for you because you're a parks and recreations guy. All those acres are called filter strips.
Right.
And they go along ditches to help clean the water as they go in to the watershed.
But the
So
other
you gotta
point,
be
but the point of CRP though is to rest it, right? I guess the one thing that they say about solar panels is while the panels are there, it rests the land. I'm just saying that's the principle of it. So I don't know if that helps.
No,
with that.
it doesn't.
Topsoil is getting stripped off. They put these things in. That was another thing.
It'll never be put back to original. No. Can't take the bottom and put on. the top.
Topsoil is stripped off the laydown yards because they have to build.
Topsoil being removed.
That's just so they can. store
In
materials.
that area that Cassandra was talking about, if we're gonna make that a laydown, they've scraped some topsoil off and then we're gonna put stone there with storage.
I will tell you that,
That's a
and you guys can
small-
say that you know more than I do, but they are not taking the topsoil off.
It's a small portion of.
Comment or the observation and that the topsoil was removed in sand.
And they put
So,
sand in
but
it.
on the
yeah.
flip side,
Lay down yards,
Just on the laydown.
right, Dan?
No, I didn't hear the question.
It's not the topsoil on the fields that gets stuck up, it's the lay down yard.
Over in Jasper, they removed a little bit of the topsoil in the fields. But I mean, very little, I'd say less than 5 acres. Most of the soil's removed in the laydown yards.
but to the flip side of this.
And the
we're not
laydown
gonna have a
yard will go
500 employee factory come into Stark County. So from the income generation side, I fully understand and I fully appreciate it. But from the farmer in me,
Well, there comes
But
a
that's
point where we
important.
gotta say enough is enough.
Yeah.
The money that's gonna be coming in is gonna be wonderful. What's done is done, but there needs to be some sort of mechanism put in place to slow this down. This is just, I feel like there's just this rush going on and people are feeling blindsided. And that's why, you know, after researching the moratoria other counties have put into place, I think something like that needs to happen. At least to give us some breathing space, so some time for the public to maybe they will begin embracing this. If they have time to do it, but right now it's being shoved into their front yard.
I hope we don't start doing that with factories, that's all I got to say. You know, or other people that own land that want to build a big house or.
Well, you know, all the farmers that were there last night, they acknowledged that zoning
yeah,
and
that's it.
regulation is in place for a reason. They were not on board with the, oh, it's my land, I should do anything I want, they were not. Taking,
Thank you again, though, Cassie, for,
yeah, we'll be.
since we're on you first and we come across, do you have anything from your board reports?
Actually, no, because Curbsys next meeting isn't until next week. So they've been canceling a few things, and I didn't make it to that January one that they had. I think after I was thinking about it, it was because my daughter called me from around Logansport, and she and her friend had hit a deer and needed me to pick her up, so I couldn't make it tomorrow. But yeah, so I'll have something probably to report next month about Curbsy.
Tony, did you have your first meeting?
No, I still haven't yet, no.
Okay.
Second and late, so, yeah.
I'm just enchanted with skill at this time. I'd really hoped, and I one of Skill's biggest cheerleaders. But they have no appetite to do the CDL. Dan, I made the mistake of telling them you were fully employed out there. And they said, well, Stark County Highway won't need any CDL people. They're not interested in the EMT training anymore. And so I'll tell you, if they're not gonna do those things, the things that we need in Stark County, what are they gonna do?
Are they still talking about doing some things for farming or no?
No, that gotta be shipped out to Marshall County.
So what are they gonna do, Bruce?
Well, they're gonna have to think about, like Dave says, we gotta educate the adults. But they don't really wanna do that.
CDL thing was good.
Huh?
The CDL thing was, I thought was.
I thought it was a must,
EMS is good.
so I'm disenchanted, but I'll just keep.
What are your thoughts about maybe having Jim come to our next meeting just to give us an update?
I would love to have you come to our next skill meeting, and of course you were on the Zoom the one day, but. You know, I was totally blindsided because I thought they were CDL bound and we were gonna make this happen, and he just totally blindsided me and said, no, it's not gonna happen.
Well,
I think it's more difficult than what they thought.
It could be, Dan, but I've been a farmer all my life, and I'm self-employed. You're never gonna get anything done when you say can't. You put just like the Bass Lake people.
Success comes in cans, I agree.
You just put your nose to the grindstone and get to work.
can you have Rachel add that to our next agenda, please, Sarah, that to have Jim Hernandez come visit us? Next time.
But I think if they're gonna continue on this road, they're overstaffed for what they're doing out there, so there needs to be some.
Overstaffed.
In my opinion,
Anything else?
no, I've said more than enough.
Howard?
The planning commission is working well with our new attorney. Well, they're aggressively going after putting some laws or some more better teeth into some of the ways they can find some of the people that are letting some of their properties fade away, fall down. We're in the process, it's just about completed. I think it has to go in front of the commissioners, an ordinance reform for RVs and campsites in the county. I guess that's kind of becoming a problem as far as people living in campers and living in sheds and parking them where they're not supposed to be parked. They should go out to your campground, right?
There you go.
So, I think everything's moving forward and this ordinance is gonna put some, teeth into the finding process that Robbie can go after these people and say, you know, clean it up, move your camper, or we're gonna fine you a lot of money.
Okay, great. I just dawned on me about something. I called Todd Jackson the other day, just wanted. Working on something with him for the fire department for a grant, but on the same token of that. He mentioned that Robbie was struggling with the shared car.
Robbie is struggling. She's sharing a car and I did not know this. She's using her own cell phone,
Well,
from what my understanding.
I don't know about the phone, but
Okay.
the car though, I just wanted to let you know. I had Rachel figure out the other offices. It's been used 2 times by other people. And
Okay.
and it did have new tires put on it.
Okay,
But one of the things I mentioned to Todd is we are retiring potentially 2 SUV, C1 SUV for her. She's only part-time. We don't usually give a car to a part-time person and you know, that then the take-home thing comes in. But I think that when we get to that, but I'm just thinking out loud right now, and the rest of the council, please jump in. Or other county employees, because you share the car too, is that if we could get one of those SUVs to replace this car, could still be a shared car. But then it could be used more, because what comes to mind is we bought that new pickup, you know, for Bose. Why couldn't at the end of the day, like the last hour or two, like the truck be used? Todd, you know, had asked me about that.
yeah, I don't have a problem with
Todd
that.
said that's
And-
impossible, that Bose is
Yeah.
way too busy, so.
Well, it was briefly brought up about the car. That's why I didn't think to mention it. And I thought, well, you know, possibly we've always got squad cars that not on the road. It's not an emergency. So we don't have to have a car capable of running in a pursuit situation either. There's always county vehicles that,
Yeah,
that
Todd
can
said he
be
had somebody
used.
who wanted to look at one from somebody from North Judson that sells cars, but I think we have enough cars internally.
well, that's what I thought.
But having a part-time person, a dedicated car, I think we're better off to still have a shared car. But maybe the SUV instead, so it's an SUV for Todd's request.
Can I say something about,
Please.
with it being an ex-police vehicle? They have everything in the council for the computers and everything else, so that whole like front seat of that car is like stripped out. So like an SUV or something that wasn't used as maybe a police.
These are fairly new SUVs and Tony's got a lot of connections that I'm just volunteering him, but maybe we can look other ways, but we could probably, if the seat is messed up in the current police car, we can probably go to a junkyard or a wreck or somewhere.
Yeah.
Not messed up, it's just like.
You're talking about because it's a service vehicle, so they don't actually have the third seat in there because you
Well,
got,
there's not
for
like a
computers.
combo
yeah,
Yeah,
We can Probably
Right.
fix
well,
that.
let's see what you
so
get.
the last time I put in it was great. I felt like I was flying out of the.
I'd be willing to make.
You
a
had that
change with
seatbelt
them.
on?
Yeah.
They can have
You just make sure it's good, you'll be fine. We'll see.
205,000 miles on it.
Are you serious about that?
Well, I don't know.
For the short term, you could talk to Todd about that, and Howard, maybe get Howard involved in that, but so. She said she might be willing just to trade her truck.
Well, I mean.
We need a truck.
It would have to be another truck though, because we need
Alright.
something with a bed.
Damn,
Well, we have a second SUV that's coming back.
I think our car has like over 200,000 miles on it as well. I don't know.
Well, Rachel said we just put new tires on it, so at least we can
Yeah.
probably put it in our auction and sell it, whatever, but. I just wanted Todd's voice to get heard on that and. You know, and since it just made me think of it when Howard brought that up, but I just, you know, the thing is though, is we don't usually get part-time people in the car.
I've
Or
been seeing it.
phones.
But her job does require a car because she's out on, she's not sitting at a desk on a
No, I
computer.
don't mean,
all day.
I don't mean, I mean a car like a take-home, full-time
But I
take-home.
don't agree with the take-home car.
I'm saying a shared car that, honestly, I had Rachel look at it 2 times. It was used by other people. Most of the time it'd be there for Robbie. I wouldn't, and I don't know why, once in a while, if there's a pinch and Bose isn't using the truck, could Robbie using the truck then? I mean, it's.
I
still
would
that
see no
department.
reason why not.
Right?
The way it's going, Bose is gonna need an increase in his budget for gas. Running over to San Pierre every day
For what?
to look at solar projects. Don't be surprised if he asks for an increase in budget for his gas. He's putting a lot more miles on that truck than you.
Howard,
realize.
could you find out why he needs to go there every single day?
Yeah,
I'm saying that, Dave, but he's putting,
Right, well, I mean, it just,
he's putting a lot of miles on that vehicle.
when we up the budget for something like that, we need to know why, because it's, taxpayer dollars, so let's find out what changed that. Is so much, because we have the plans, we have the drawings, we have the, the permit's already been given. So, just a little, is there anything else, Howard, from?
no, I'm good, unless anybody's got any questions.
You guys finally got that settled out there at Bass Lake too, didn't you, with the one that was fighting you for years?
No, no, that's a 12-year project that they received from a creditor, from a mortgage company. They paid a $5,000 fine, but have made no improvements.
Oh, but they paid the fine.
They paid the mortgage, the mortgage company paid the fine. You figure, that's, why, but that is an ongoing project and Justin is looking into, well, he's not looking into it, it's in the process that, going right down the road with probably in the long run, tearing down court orders and tearing down part of their property and doing everything we can financially to retain them, the funds back in Starke County. That's where we're real hesitant to go pay an exuberant amount of money and have bad houses or bad outbuildings tore down and basically clean the property up for these people. We want to make very sure that revenue is paid back to the county. That's a big eyesore. That has been going on for 12 years, a lot longer than I've been on the board, and Justin is aggressively pursuing that. That's a valuable piece of ground out there, and it needs to be cleaned up.
Economic development, you're on that too, but I went to the groundbreaking, for that little machine shop. How was that? It was good. Yeah, it was good. Employed a couple of people.
Stuff here.
Yeah. Went to that. Well, we have a meeting on Monday.
That's what, when you guys signed it.
And we met with NIPSCO, just had an update. That was last week, I believe. But
Yeah, it's, the NIPSCO seems to be pretty content about things and. We've had a couple of different discussions about broadband too and. What the possibilities would go for that. It's pretty expensive. I know this project, but Surf Wireless, there's a couple other companies that are helping maybe reduce that pretty substantially.
that surf was at city council meeting that I went to, that's moving on.
Are they gonna be the main ones in the city?
I think so. Mhm. Well, Dan was at the NIPSCO meeting. You had a question. Did you get that question really answered for you? I wasn't clear on how they were responding to you.
They kind of talked around it a little
That's what I
bit,
thought.
but
That kind of, we're in it together, so that kind of covers me. Tracy? Anything else?
I'm ecstatic.
Good.
Beyond ecstatic. This was my goal before, when I
Anything else,
considered this job.
I don't want to be a bearer of bad news, but when the state.
Forget it, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. When the state gave out the appropriations for the bridges.
Yeah.
This year. They were supposed to go into construction in 28. They automatically moved them to 29. So as far as NDOT's concerned on the bridges, they're like 70 million in the hole.
Wow.
Because of inflation. So anything that got approved got bumped back a year.
Well, I hope they're gonna help. us
So I
out
don't
on
know
that.
what DNR's shape is, but that's what we found out in the roads.
Buy more lottery tickets.
Sir, anything else there?
No, so.
Anybody as we come around? Mr. Miller? Nope. Anybody else?
He says, yeah, let's go.
I just want to say thank you guys so much.
Then we sent the executive meeting stuff.
No, you talked about.
I'm sorry. It's for the line. I scratched it off. One last thing before Sarah, she wanted to give a little biography about herself, because she's, from the auditor's office, hasn't been here, and one of our shining bright auditor personnel. She does our payroll and human resources, right?
I hear she's the brains of the outfit.
I already spoke with Justin and we needed to have a executive meeting about what Cassie brought up last time about the smoke shop property. Is May 26th at 9 AM. Good for the.
Isn't that a Friday?
Yeah,
You already told me that.
It
was
is.
a
Yeah,
bad
I'm
day
gonna be
to
out of
do.
town. It's Memorial Day weekend.
Right.
Gosh, yeah, I'll be out of town too, Dave, on that.
I know Todd said he could do it. I mean, it looks like we, even if one of us is out, the other 5 is. I mean, is that all right with you guys? And you
Yeah.
can maybe like
If we do it early in the day.
9 AM.
9 AM?
9 o'clock,
9 AM.
maybe
we could do
Anytime after 5 is okay with me.
That's fine. You guys.
Get up at 5. That's all. You got a vacation already, so, geez.
I love
We
that.
just came back.
Well, I'll throw this out there. Justin picked the 26th, and I know it has to do with the date he's coming back, but as a contingency, just in case, since it would be better for 2. Could we make a contingency of the 25th at 9 AM works, that we do it then? But we'll, if they approve that, but
Yeah.
assume right now the 26th, but,
Yeah.
I could fit, I just need, yeah, that makes.
okay. So we'll propose that. Right now, Rachel thinks 26, but if it's workable for Justin and Rachel, 25th. Just have her, if she would, just let us all know.
The 25th is available.
If the 25th is available. And then with that, you can go ahead and go into your speech. Are you sure?
Is she in relation to the bakery people? Sarah Lee, anybody? No?
26, no.
Do you want to tell everybody who you're related to, or? No. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
However, either way.
All in favor?
Roll.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, everybody.
What should we?
With your big chance.
Tom?
Oh, okay.
You never know.